Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and tie master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And Anne-Marie, before we got started here, we were kind of chatting about things with our guest today, and he was kind of inadvertently reminding me about, how I started my podcast and how the whole thing came about. You know that story, as do the longtime listeners. But it reminded me of something because, I went through that crash with 2008. My business got completely wiped out within about a month. Went through the next 4 years basically going deep into debt because nothing was working properly. And that led to me creating the podcast to try to figure out how to get out of the mess. Along the way, though, something happened that I did talk about some on the podcast, but I haven't really done a lot on it. And that is I experienced burnout in my career path because I had been an IT guy. Like our guest was also has an IT background. I've been an IT background for pretty much my adult life because, back in '82, I bought a computer before anybody else did. And I actually didn't have any fear of it. And so that's okay. You're hired. We don't even know what you can do, but you know a computer. Great. You got a job. No problem. And the funny thing was I was good at it, but I just didn't really love it very well. I mean, I could do it. I could teach other people. I could, figure stuff out on my own. I had no degree in it or anything like that. It just made sense to me, but I never really loved it. And there were times, especially, how it is. You're working a job, and if you don't really love what you're doing, it'll burn you out pretty good.
It does. It does drain you a bit.
It does.
It takes a lot of the joy out of the day, doesn't it?
It does. Well, not just out of the day. It can take it out of your year. It can take it out of a whole patch of time that you're going through, right?
Yeah.
So
nobody wants that Sunday evening feeling, do they?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You dread the Mondays when you're in that that ramp. That's the kind way of putting it. It's more like a hamster wheel, but that's another thing. But the point is that I went through that burnout, and just recently, of course, AI has come around, and for the first time in my life, I actually like IT. AI is like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I've never had this so much fun with IT in my life. So it's a wonderful experience. But here's the thing. Would I have ever gotten there if I didn't go through the burnout? See, I'm not sure that I would have.
Probably not. Because you wouldn't have been,
Because the burnout taught me stuff.
Yes.
And
you're doing it now because you are enjoying it.
Yeah.
And you're getting that Sunday evening joy.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Sunday evening; it's Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. The hardest part actually is pulling myself away from it.
Yeah, so, and I see how you just brighten up when you talk about it. You can see how much you love it.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. So I basically throw all that out as a preamble to point out going through the burnout is actually one of the best things that happens to us. It's not at the time. At the time, it's like the worst thing that could possibly happen, like with any crash and burn, right? But as we've discovered so many times with guests on the show, it turns out to be one of the best things that happens. I think the same thing is going to be true of our guest today. Now, I've kind of set him up in advance. So, if he comes at me with a different answer, you'll know why. But we're going to find out directly from him. So his name is Dwight Heck. And Dwight, you went through your own, you went through a health. Why don't you tell the story? You went through like a health crisis. Give us like the background. What happened here?
Well, I owned a computer consulting firm, plus I had a computer store itself, a retail store. And I had a service division of a company servicing IT. So I was working crazy and trying to manage people, manage jobs. Plus I was also a consultant on many different, for different corporations in the city. At that time, when I got sick, I was doing consulting work for the government of Alberta, for the office of the CIO, so the Chief Information Officer. I was doing work for him. I was doing work also for the firm that I was contracting through. They would contract me out to different people. And just before, I won't get into all the details of it, but literally just around when September 11th happened, I got struck with a health scare. And I won't get into the details of it, but I got taken into the hospital and was told that by the time I got done with like neurologists and dealing with different people in regards to their brain and health issues and getting reprimanded and chastised by my doctor, who I'd known already 30 years, right? So I guess he kind of had the right. He kind of knew me, so he kind of chastised me and told me I should change careers. And it took me just about a full year before I did change careers. But the health scare made me realize that I was in an industry that I could easily get swallowed up into, in the IT industry as a consultant, because I was a global internet security specialist. I was GX certified as well in North America. So I was quite busy, but it wasn't really my passion. It started out as a passion as a young boy back in the 80s, working on the first IBM XTs, getting a Commodore 64, and just playing around with life, right? Enjoying myself. But that passion, once I tried applying it to a career, I was good at it, but I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't satiated. I was always looking for something different. So I take on more challenging commitments where it would take more of my hours, where I literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I used to go days on end without sleep. I was enthralled. I'd be on a project in charge of people, and we'd have to work at nights because we'd have to close down servers. We'd have to do different things within the internal structure of intranet versus extranet and do stuff like that. Well, then I'd also be around I'd stay, because now these people are interacting within our corrections and our structure changes or additions or upgrades, and I'd be worried about them, right? I couldn't disconnect. I'd be worried that they'd start to do something and I wouldn't be there, because we'd take the day off to sleep, because we'd be up sometime from a Friday till Monday morning, right? It'd be nothing for us to be up 3 days, not just me, other people as well. But I was the guy that took it to the extreme, and I couldn't reset within my brains, right? So I wouldn't get much sleep, and it started affecting my health till I had that scare. And then it took me months. I still took on a couple more contracts, and I was in a state of confusion, right?
So you learned it just took a while, is what you're saying.
Pardon me?
You learned, but it took a while.
Oh yeah. I'm not the sharpest in the drawer, just not the dullest knife, right? So it took me a little bit, but when I finally realized, it was a longtime friend of mine called me and said, you make a good 6-figure income, but he says you're broke all the time. You need to do something different. But before we'd ever teach you how to do financial planning, and insurance planning, and teaching you how to help people, we're going to teach you to get out of your train wreck. And I said to him, I said, well, that's pretty bold. I haven't told you all this. He says, it's not hard for me to see. I said, geez, thanks, fellow entrepreneur, for dumping on me. And at first I took it as an insult, and it took me from that conversation months before I'd agree to meet anybody within the brokerage system they had. And I decided to, well, okay, I'll do this. And the thing about me, though, I'm tenacious about everything I do, and I figured tenacity is a superpower. So I got into the financial world. I took my exam, which most people struggle taking 3-4 months. I picked up the books on a Thursday, had my kids for my joint custody. At that time, I didn't have them full-time custody. It was joint custody. I studied all the books. I started on a Friday. By Sunday night, it was my time to drop them back off with their moms. I studied all night, never went to sleep, got up in the morning, went to the provincial office where I had already registered a non-refundable fee to write the exam on Friday, went in and wrote it and passed it. And I'm not exaggerating. That was the first time that anybody had done that. Wow. I literally and I had never picked up the books prior, I swear to you.
That's funny.
And I took this information, and then they started training me, and I fired my trainers because they were too much about transaction, not enough about relationships. They weren't enough about giving a heck. They weren't enough about the people that are stuck on that hamster wheel of life that I talk about. You mentioned it earlier. I talk about that all the time. Go to work, go home, get paid, because nobody gives them their dues. Nobody puts them on a pedestal, gives them an opportunity to explain their monsters, their life monsters, their money monsters. Nobody's ever goal set with them. Nobody's ever told them, if you make $1 and you spend $1.20 every month, what do you expect? You're stuck. You're the Walking Dead, digging your own ditch, going back and forth, right? So all that stuff culminated into me being a person. Again, I fired them. I wanted to learn how to do it. Tenacious. I can't let stuff go. I guess I'm like that rabid dog. It just keeps on attacking. I guess that's a bad analogy. But anyway, I'm a person that doesn't give up. So I literally started contacting people in the industry from around Canada. And if they were in Edmonton or Calgary or somewhere close, I'd drive to meet them. I'd buy them a coffee, buy them lunch, anything just to pick their brains, to get information. People within the local office talk to them and ask them their experiences. Started taking that all down, putting it down through the old IT world flow chart, like what's going to work, what's got to get dumped in the trash, and use my logical analytical brain to figure out what kind of a practice I wanted. Right? I wanted a practice to teach people how to live life on purpose and not by accident, which is a subtitle of my book, which has been my surrounded around my practice for 25 years now, making people
I'm also curious
stop living.
You mentioned how you were basically burning the candle at three ends. I mean, not only was two ends, but you were burning it so quickly. I'm going to say you were burning it in the middle as well. So you're burning the candle that quickly, you know. At some point you had to change that behavior, because otherwise you probably wouldn't be here. So what happened with that part?
Well, where I changed that behavior, though, I ended up the health scare. If you really want to know the details, I was sitting at a friend's place. It was my birthday's on September 30th. Hers is on September 28th. So it was a couple weeks after the September 11th fiasco, the tragedy that happened in the U.S. there, how it affected everybody around the world.
Oh, yeah.
But I was sitting there, and it was a husband and wife, best friends of mine. They had another lady there, two other women there, and myself. And they wanted to, already I was divorced. They were hoping to set me up with one of these two girls. Well, we're sitting there having supper together. We're visiting. I think we had wine. I don't know. Could have been some alcohol involved. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden, the one girl gets offended. She's sitting across me, and she says, "Will you quit winking at me?" And I says, "What are you talking about? I'm not winking at you." So then my friend Marlene looks at me, and she says, "You are so. Like, you're being a little bit too forward." And I went, "What are you talking about?" And my buddy Randy goes, "Dude, go in the bathroom and take a look. Something's wrong with your face." And I went into the bathroom, and the right side of my face was paralyzed. And my eye I wasn't able to blink anymore.
Wow.
I had I'm trying to think of the name now. One of those things, you know, age and brain farts, they happen, they go hand in hand. So I can't remember no, it wasn't a TIA. No, it was TIA is a little bit different. Anyway, it has to do with your number 7 nerve that goes up from your neck on both sides to control your facial. It's all tied in with your spine and your facial and your brain, right? It's an actual nerve. Well, I had been running myself ragged at working, like literally I'd just finished up a contract, had been working my typical 2-3 days without sleep. It wasn't just that one occurrence that I did that. I was known for not being able to give up, right? Yeah. Even when I was married, my wife at the time would bring me fresh dress clothes to put on, right? Bring me something to eat because I wouldn't leave, right? So that ended up, I went to got rushed to the hospital. They diagnosed me, got to see a neurologist, had to go through a bunch of stuff. In 3 months, I couldn't work. I had my eye taped up because I had no control of my eyelid, right? Everything on this side. So when I had smiled, half it was like literally drawing a line down. Half of my face I could control, half was
almost like
unavailable. It's not called a stroke though. It's it's a form of a stroke. It's more of a facial stroke, and I just can't think of the name of it. There's so many famous people. Like in Canada, we've had famous politicians that have had it, and you'll look at him, like you look at John Chrétien. He was one of our prime ministers. If you see him today, he's still alive and talks. Part of it, he only can control one side of his face because he never fully recovered. Anybody that knows me knows I never fully recovered. They can see the differences in my face on the right-hand side. But some people have had it multiple times. My one daughter had it twice. She's a nurse. She actually works in Seattle, in the States. She had it happen to her twice. Once while she was going through nursing school. So it's directly tied to stress and body wear down. And I wish I could think of the name. If it comes to me, I certainly will let you know. But yeah, that was what the health scare was. And they told me that I had to, even though I got into that, so then I went into finance and I was starting to do the same patterns.
Well, that's just it. I mean, it's one thing to be told you had this thing going on, but you still got to change the behavior pattern. That's the hard part.
But that's the thing about getting into finance. There was a group of people that they had already been feeding me books for years on personal development. My personal development. So the friend that called me and told me to leave the industry and go to another industry was the same one that introduced me to 3 of the most powerful books I ever read in 1993. He handed me these 3 books, didn't have to pay for them. And he says, when you're done those, let's talk. And then I joined a book club with them, right? It was all professionals, women and men. And they were all nonfiction books, from your Napoleon Hills to your Stephen Covey's to your, the list goes on, right? To Dale Carnegie, just all the different people so why I bring that up is fast forward to when all this happened. They had a company where they were bringing in people like Blair Singer. He's a very famous American speaker that came in and taught us about stage presence. He taught us about confidence. Does everybody get it when they go to this stuff? Absolutely not. I bet you 1%. I've been to more than 300 conferences since 93. And I bet you, and some of them I spoke at, some of them I was a guest, some of them I was just going to attend. And I bet you not even half of 1% of that audience is going to get it.
Well, I would say it's probably more likely they picked up pieces, because that's what usually happens. We pick pieces up along the way, and then we kind of piece it together over time, whatever our particular.
But is there somebody there to help you put that puzzle piece together?
Sometimes.
This organization, usually not, but this organization, it found it really easy. They may have been weak on the training side of what I was looking for, to actually build people up and worry about their numbers after the fact, to build that relationship, to help them understand, what do you want? What do you want out of life? Are you tired of living where you're at? And actually telling people, not how much you know, but teaching them how much you can care about them, how you can connect to them. And that's the person I knew I wanted to be. But I had to look at me and have an awareness.
Taking a step back. You're talking about taking a step back and taking a breath and saying, you know what? I've been through this, basically a hell trip lately. First of all, do I want to continue on the hell trip? And if I don't, what am I willing to do about it? And if I am willing to do something about it, where do I want to go? Those are the kinds of questions that you're talking about asking there. And not only asking them, but taking the time to answer them and to think them through and to say, what do I really feel? What really is important to me? Because I think that's the one thing that stops people more than anything else from making that change. You talked about, 1% make a change. I think the 99% don't make the change just because they don't take the time to ask the questions.
Well, and if you want to be for others, you have to be for yourself first and foremost. We've been taught as a society, you're being selfish. That's an automatic deflection mechanism. When anybody in the world says, somebody's being selfish, you ever heard of self-care?
Yeah, right.
Right? Is there really a big difference between selfish and self-care? Is there really a difference between me saying, no, I'm not going to do that? Oh, you're being selfish. Why don't you support me? Why don't you help me? Well, because, through many years of personal development and even, talking to mental health specialists, because I'm worthy, it took me years to set myself in front of other people, not in a selfish way, not in an egotistical way, but in a way that I knew if I wasn't in the right headspace, how could I possibly help anybody? How could I really internalize their pain? How could I pick out the right stories of the plethora of life that I've lived? From being, eventually I became a single. In 2008 was a wicked year for me too, brother. It's the year I got full custody, went from joint to full custody of my 4 daughters and son. Right? Raised them as a single dad. And the worst part of my life, my whole career went down the toilet because nobody wanted to do financial planning, financial services.
They didn't want to even. Not the best time for that. No.
No. And it wasn't even that. So I did have meetings, but most of it was just consoling people. It was helping them. And then meanwhile, I wasn't consoling myself. So, it's easy to fall back in the hamster wheel of life. Into that valley of despair. The difference between myself and you guys is that we learn simple little tools to now filter life through that filter. And more times than not, I'm going to catch myself because I've taught myself that awareness principle, to be aware, to time myself out, to never have a bad day. I don't know if you look, it's one of the conversations and talks I've done so many times about how to never have a bad day. This is my 8th year. Nobody will tell you in my family through death, through despair, through tragedy that I've said I've had a bad day, because I'm always looking. That may sound like really kind of fruity tooty, but it's true. I look for the silver lining. I look for the fact that it's the most simplistic thing that keeps me going to make sure I don't have a bad day. Oh my gosh, God, I opened my eyes today. Thank you for another shot. Thank you for another opportunity. Oh, wow, I get to be on this podcast today. I'm just jacked. Or I thought about that earlier before when I got up hours ago, right? It's the same thing. That awareness keeps me grounded in the fact that I have a shield now. I have armor. No matter what comes at me, it has to filter through that armor. Sometimes it gets through and I have to have a reset. And then I have enough tools that I educate others on, but I practice first and foremost myself. The worst thing is having a coach or a mentor that's a hypocrite. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, you do need to be consistent. There's no doubt about that. But Anne-Marie, I mean, what he's talking about there, first of all, it's very familiar to us, right? Because this is the kind of thing we talk about a lot. But the fact that he was focusing particularly on how he had this massive thing that happened, this health crisis that basically forced his hand. It forced his hand into taking a look and asking questions. He also had a great support team. I mean, that's a big piece right there. Having a support team to be there to help you through the stuff is a whole lot easier than trying to do it yourself.
Oh,
I mean, we've talked about that so many times, right? And you know what that's like. You've been there yourself. If you don't have the support, it's like 100 times more difficult. If you do have the support,
yeah, it's a lonely place without the support, and it takes a lot longer to get there, doesn't it?
It really does.
And
it's to find genuine support.
Which is why it's so important to know who you're connecting with and why you're connecting with them. I mean, probably the biggest change I made was changing who I was friends with. That was partly because I did the podcast, but it's partly because who I was friends with really weren't serving me at all when that crisis hit.
Can I add something?
It was a pretty small circle anyway. That was bad enough as it was. But the ones
it wasn't just your friends. It was what you were. So our associations. People have been stuck in there for so many years that our associations are the 5 most important people we associate with affect us. Right. True, but they're leaving out so many parts of the other life equation. What do you listen to? What do you read? What do you ingest? What are you aware of your emotional state, your emotional IQ at the time, and connecting it to who you're talking to? Did you reach out to that person because you know they'd be an agreeable person? Did you reach to that book to read it because you want to stay stuck where you're stuck? Did you listen to that podcast on true crime because it's going to help you, or it's going to make you hate the world even more than you already do? Like our associations. So what you say is so true. But at the end of the day, we need to take our associations outside of just the people. It's what we associate in our circle. When we look up around our room where we're at, what are we associating with? Your visual things on the wall can make a difference. We get visually deaf, pardon me, to what's on the wall, but that imprint is in our brain. When we walk by it, that statue, that picture, it still affects our 6 inches between our ears. So it took, I'm not saying this all happened overnight either. I'm still a work in progress.
Well, it's one step at a time. It's usually 1 micromillimeter at a time. And, take a little step here, 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's all that kind of thing. There's no straight line. It'd be nice if there was, but there's no straight line. It's crooked. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But, that's part of the fun of the journey is looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Is a funny thing that people state. We're all searching for it. We're all searching for that happiness. And I laugh because I do a lot of coaching with people outside of my practice. I coach my own clients that are in my, in the finance and insurance part, individuals, companies, but I coach people outside of that just on life coaching. And I tell them, you know what? You tell me all the time the same thing. You want to be happy. You don't want to feel miserable. But in order to know happiness, don't you think you have to know miserable? You have to know sadness. You have to know despair. In order to be totally happy, you have to have the yin and yang in life. So you just need to focus on the happy more and the stuff that's making you feel like garbage and pulling you back into that valley of despair. What tools are you using? And most people don't have any tools. The school system never taught them tools. Their parents didn't learn behavior.
The school system, you're looking at the wrong source. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So, associations, like you said, are so important. Who are you communicating with? How do you feel? Tap into your body when you're talking to somebody. How do you feel when they're talking? When they leave, are you sad? When you leave, can you go to yourself, oh my gosh, I hope I never speak to them again?
It was actually
Right?
one of my own
Are
personal
you be
breakthrough moments,
aware?
realizing and learning that I actually had in my power, in my control, through the worst period of time. I didn't know it at the time. I learned about it later, but I actually had within my reach at that time the ability to be happy. And when I was in the middle of it, that seemed impossible. It took me years to actually learn that there was no such thing as being tied into a default response to whatever situation happened. So if there's a happy situation that happened, then I could be happy. If there was a sad situation that happened, I had to be sad. If there was an indifferent situation, I had to be indifferent. The first time that I actually discovered I could choose a different response, it blew my mind. Like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that was possible. You could actually choose something different from what the moment was telling you. Oh my God.
Well, it's FOMO and rejection. FOMO and fear of missing out affects our decisions and leaving that circumstance, and rejection. We're so worried about what people think, we let them live rent free in our head.
Yeah.
Right. We live rent. And how many ideas? I was having this discussion with my niece here a few days ago, and then also one of my daughters flew in for Easter, and we were visiting, and we were talking about how many thoughts, even from our childhood to our adulthood status where we're at now, how many things live rent free in our head.
Oh God.
Right. And more bad things and more bad things than good things, though. Right? Because that's the way our society is. It inundated us through social media and what we are socializing, the people we socialize with, the associations we have with the media, the things we read in posts. They're all designed to keep us drawn in for marketing dollars. They're not designed to enhance and make us better people.
Well, to be perfectly fair, let's be a little bit fair about this. The fact is, people love looking at nasty things happen. That's why they keep, what they don't want to actually live it, but they like watching it on TV.
Of course.
Oh, this is great. What a great program. Would never want to live it, but wow, that's really a cool program.
Because it deflects from their current status in their mindset.
Yeah.
Right. It's all a deflection mechanism. It's tough for them to be aware and be honest with themselves. That's the hardest thing in my growth when it started back in the early 90s, was going, oh my gosh, I think that way. I responded this way. The more aware I got, the more I discussed that I got in myself and realized that I needed to, other people might not have seen the same facade I was presenting, but this is what I was feeling internally, right? That internal strife causes us problems.
How do I handle the fact that I have to handle the fact? It's, it's one thing to just kind of, go with the flow and do stuff. But when you actually have to stop and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm the common denominator of everything going on in my life, including the stuff I don't like. That's hard. That's just hard to face that.
Yeah.
It is the way through. It's the way you're actually going to get to the point you really want to be at. But you have to go through that, what is it? It's a tournament of fire almost. It's a rough thing that you have to go through. And yet it's where all the good things happen. It's where all the best growth happens. It's where all the best stuff happens. So,
and we'd like to just tap people and put that in their brain so they can start from there. So they can start from there and not from all the hills and valleys. And sometimes, though, I think those lessons need to be learned, to have, wallowed in it, to have embraced themselves in it, so that they can truly understand the opposite side of it when they do get past it. That appreciation stops us from sliding back as fast. And then again, associations of people and daily routines and just the things that we do to create a tribe and a world where people want to interact in our world and we want to interact in theirs. And that's a intentful, purposeful life that we all strive to have, but we don't know how to get there.
And well,
we don't understand
earlier. I mean, you were talking earlier about how you can actually choose how you're going to focus. Am I going to spend my time in a space where there are things on my walls and so forth that aren't serving me, or am I going to rearrange things so that they are serving me? And then in the process of changing all that, a funny thing happens, because as you change all that, it's almost like it happens by accident, but it isn't by accident. The people in your life start to rearrange themselves to match this new situation that you're setting up for yourself. Because you change the way that you're experiencing and interacting with your life, the people around you change. It's either they themselves make changes or they are replaced by other people.
And they try pulling us back along the way.
Oh, they do. They're good at that too. They try.
Right. Right. They try pulling us back into their valley of despair because it's uncomfortable. Now they can't have somebody that's going to commiserate with them about the circumstances so they can not feel as bad because, oh, you've got it going on too. Now my circumstance isn't as bad. And, and then they fall into addictive behaviors and they can't wait for the weekend. They're happy Friday night, miserable Sunday because they know they got to go back to work. They don't have a lot of good things to say. And anybody listening to this, and if you're in that, you can escape it.
Yeah,
you can. Who do you love more? The people in your circle that are making you feel the same way every single day, not giving you any, light of any shining sunshine to draw you toward them? Are they always constantly making you feel bad? Right? Ask yourself, have those awareness, tough questions, and then accept the answer and move forward. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to hurt at first. It will hurt. Some of my longest friends of 20 some years, 30 years that I've had to walk right, I still look and analyze and say, you know what, I did get this good thing from them. But it got to a point where the percentage of them making me smile and feeling glad was at 50-50, or then all of a sudden it's 60-40, 70-30, 30%. If it's 50-50, I walk away from people, clients, family, friends. I'm sorry. If I have to wonder whether or not I'm going to feel the cringy grossness of being around you, or wondering if you're going to open your mouth and make me cry or smile, then it's time to move on, right?
Well, that's just
it. Value yourself.
When you're taking the growth steps, you are in many important ways, you are becoming a stronger version of yourself, and you're having a better sense of what you value, of what's important to you. And that's what I was referring to earlier. The more that you do that, they're going to be the people who try to suck you back, but their power to suck you back just isn't as powerful anymore, because it's just not as interesting. It was interesting before because that was pretty much all you had. But once you built this other side of yourself up, their argument just doesn't even work anymore. It's like, yeah, okay, great. I've been there. I've done that. I've gotten the t-shirt. It's time for me to move on. Thanks anyway. Bye.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that anymore.
Well, the thing is you don't want to do that anymore. You don't want to be around those people. And they're the same people in your first years of success, or even decades of success, that if you're still on social, you still run into them once in a while in social circles. They'll have some sort of derogatory, snarky comment to say, and I just look at them and smile, because you know what? I'm living rent-free in their head and I'm kind of enjoying it. Right? Small little pleasures in life. That's the way I look. You know what? That's okay. They said that about me. That's okay. They typed that about me. I'm living rent-free in their head. Maybe the rent that they're paying, they're just paying enough to keep me there. They don't want to evict me because they're not willing to do the work.
If they're going to have you live rent-free in their head, the good news is that what's living in your head is most likely the part that they really need to hear anyway. So it's probably a good kind of rent-free. It could go either way, but in your case, I imagine it's that kind.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we just got to realize that the more we focus and we'll think about worry. Think of the term worry, or think of the term of being, in a state of worry. You and I, let's say we're worried about world events right now, which most people are on the world stage with the wars and different things that can go on. Well, we look at that and we worry about it. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. And we worry up to a point where an outcome happens. And now we're worried about what's the next thing that's going to happen, or how are they going to fix this? So we suffer twice. We're in a society of worry warts, when really at the end of the day, we got to give up all that to whatever you believe in. I'm a God-fearing person, so I give up the garbage that I can't control to God, and I work with what I can control, and I keep moving forward. Some days are tremendously better.
It's probably the most useless emotion that we have, and we have a lot of different emotions, but worry is probably the most, because what does it actually produce? It doesn't produce anything except more worry. Like, what the hell?
But what's the first thing you hear from people? Right? That's you hear that word so often. I'm worried, or I worry about this person. So it's not even about you. You're worrying about your child, your friend, your significant other. My goodness. It's not conducive to mental health, right?
No.
To having a strong emotional and mental IQ. It's really tough because we have such a world that just bombards us with negativity, doesn't bombard us with the tools and the resources. There's people such as yourself and me out there, right, that we go out and support and help people, but it's not conducive. It's not the mainstay.
Right.
We're an anomaly. Just like our fingerprints are an anomaly and all different.
I'll go a step
right?
out of that, though. I hear what you're saying, because I think you're right. But I would say that the anomaly is becoming less anomalous. There are more and more people who are becoming anomalies, is another way of saying that. And maybe that's just because I get a lot of guests on the program who, are demonstrating all these different ways that they've moved ahead in their lives. But I also see it out in the, quote, real world. I mean, I just seem to encounter more and more people who are taking steps to grow, to do the work inside, to be better. And I never saw that 40 years ago, 30 years ago. That was just never in my world. It never came into my view. Now it comes into my view fairly frequently. So,
but why? Why is it coming into your view? Technology.
I suspect mainly because of the work.
It exists. It's existed prior. It just wasn't vocalized. It wasn't easily accessible. Right?
You didn't have. Take on that? I mean, because you experience, you're also in the IT world too, so you have that piece of it as well. But what's your take on what you experience when you encounter people in the world? Are you finding more people who are doing work on themselves, or it's about the same, or what's your take?
I think definitely it's really hard because, for example, I go on YouTube quite a lot. I do a lot of my sort of learning on there. So that's my algorithm. And so it seems like everybody's doing it in my world but then if I go outside into like the work and people, I see people developing themselves, but maybe not on a personal development, more on a work development. I see it happening. I can see seeds being planted more.
Okay.
But I think for me, ever since I was young, I've done volunteer work and I've always had that kind of community around me. So it's the norm.
Okay. All right.
So
that's fair. I like that. I like the answer. It's fair. There are associations, who we associate, groups we belong to, the things we do. It does affect us. If you've been blessed to already have that, congratulations. Now that's just a stepping stone and how much farther you can go.
Yeah, but
right? It's a stepping stone.
It is. But I was just sort of reflecting there as I said that, because yes, there's a lot of people I've worked with who want to make a difference in voluntary work. But then if I put that back into the kind of the corporate world, a lot of people didn't understand why I wanted to do that and said they could never do it. And I always thought, well, why couldn't you? And then I realized I actually do think differently.
Yeah. So that's where you find the differentiation.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I see a lot. I see a lot of people definitely wanting to make a difference and really wanting to improve things for other people and themselves. But I think in people who aren't in that scene, I think it's drip feeding through.
Do you find that the people who fall in that category are people who are doing work on themselves?
What that is dripping through, or the people who, yeah. I think it's forced upon them at the moment.
Really?
I see people having those situations. I think, like you say, the outside world's just a bit crazy at the moment, or it could just be somebody's relatives have died, or a friendship or a relationship is finished. Something's triggered that reaction in order to just have that reflection and then start doing things for themselves.
Yeah. Because I mean, that is the way it often works, right? We have some sort of a traumatic situation, a crash and burn, something like that, that comes along, and it kind of stops us and makes us do a retake and say, okay, well, what's really important to me?
Yeah. But then you've got somebody like me going, I promise you this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. And at that moment, they just want to punch me.
Yeah.
I understand that feeling as well. I think Dwight does too.
So I don't really say it like that, but and it's like, you're gonna come out of this stronger. I swear to God, you're gonna.
But you can't. Like the old saying goes, you can't lead a horse to water to drink. You can't lead somebody into personal growth and development. I've said to so many people, just try that. And really, how many people are going to try something, even if they're paying you money or I'm giving them free information just to help them out. It's that awareness principle of being stuck is real. They're rooted into their couch. They're rooted into their work chair. They're rooted into being fixed in their mindset. So when I talk to them, people say, well, how long does it take for this? I don't know. How much how much effort are you going to put in?
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself every time we talk, every time we meet up, every time we're on a video call, are you the willing? What do you mean, am I the willing? Are you willing to change? Are you willing to embrace the uncomfortable? Are you willing to read one more page of a book? Are you willing to listen to a podcast that might say some stuff or whatever? Are you willing to read this article I wrote that it's going to evoke some really terrible feelings, because there's going to probably be a lot of stuff within your life that this is going to be sensitive to. Are you willing? Are you willing to do this? If you're not willing, then be honest with you and be honest with me. I'm going to go help somebody that's the willing. Like I tell that to people all the time. Who do you pick? The willing. How do you figure that out? Conversation, build relationships. It might take 2-3 sessions. And after 3 sessions, I've told people, sorry, there's no fit. I'll put more effort in than you. And 6 months later, 90 days later, you're going to be right back where you're at, because the numbers aren't the problem. You're the problem. Your learned behavior is the problem. Your lack of knowledge is the problem. And I'm willing to help that not be a problem and make it into a strength. I've been there. And be vulnerable. Share the stories with them of what you've gone through, right? And that helps people break down their walls, I think.
Yeah. I like the fact that you talk about that as being willing, because one of the ways that I often hear it expressed is, are you coachable? But being coachable is not necessarily the same thing as being willing. You can be guided through something, but that doesn't mean you're willing to actually apply yourself to make the change. It just means you're willing to be guided through something. Being willing means I'm committed to making this thing happen, rather than lead me by the nose.
Don't you believe words are powerful, though? That's one thing I coach a lot on. I consider myself a wordsmith, and people say, what's that? Well, do you know what a thesaurus is? Well, yeah, I do. Have you ever gone in there and looked at something, the meaning of something, and how many words it can be said? And read the words out loud so you can hear them. How does your body react to one word that can mean this, but this word means the same thing? Now, if you put it in the right phrasing and you explain it the right way, you get a different outcome. So wordsmithing is so important, what we tell ourselves and how we need to be kinder to ourselves. I think that's one of the best messages to leave people. Start being kind to yourself. You'll be the willing when you start being kind to yourself and quit beating yourself up and go, you know what I want to do for most of my people? You know what? They have a lot of people that I've coached in the last 25 years tell me. My husband and I were thinking the other day, or I was sitting with my business partner, I was sitting by myself at home going over my financial stuff, and I was thinking, what would Dwight do? He used to always tell us that sometimes when we get caught in a quandary, we get caught in an emotional trap, we get caught in in strife and trials and tribulations in life. He used to tell us that you had a person that you would say, what would this person do? Right? Even if that person isn't somebody that I could talk to right at the moment, it would be a reality check for me.
Yeah.
Right.
And
so if that helps you,
because basically that's a method for how do I connect to somebody else's way of looking at this so that I can break away for a moment from my way of looking at it, which is invaluable. I mean,
it's so strong for me.
What's that?
It was so strong for me. It made such a huge difference in my life. I still utilize it today, and it's different people depending on circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for myself, I mean, I've had a lot of different tools pass my way. The way I tend to get the most value is I like so many people, I have a tendency to try to make my decisions with my brain, try to think everything through, analyze and so forth. If I really want to know what I need to know at any given time, particularly if I'm struggling with something, I will stop and ask myself, okay, brain, shut off for a minute. Heart, what do I feel right now? No, brain, shut up. You've had enough. That's enough right now. I want to hear from the heart. The heart, I'm listening to you, right? And sometimes I have to go through a little game like that. But when I can actually listen to what my heart is telling me, usually my heart has been trying to tell me all along. It's just I wasn't paying any attention. And when I finally listen to it, it's like, well, yeah, of course, it makes all sense in the world.
Isn't stubbornness real, though?
Oh, yeah.
It's real. we have our own internal battles every single second, every moment of the day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we know, and we look at the massive amount of depression and anxiety, which has been higher in the world now than it ever has been. Right. I remember that in 2008. I remember it in 2014. I remember when we had some issues in the world. I remembered it obviously during the pandemic. But we have a society that is just literally living on a hamster wheel from one next event of tragedy to the next, and they don't pull out those little nuggets of happiness that they have within their own environment. It's the simplest little things. For me, spending time at Easter with my grandkids, watching them paint eggs, seeing my parents that are both 85 and still alive, and just embracing those memories and those moments so that I can fall back on them too. When I'm in the conflict between my logic and my heart,
Right.
I can go, you know what? Logically, I should be doing this, but emotionally and heart centered, my warm and fuzzies are saying no. Close your laptop. Go spend more time with family, because today's the present. I don't know if tomorrow is going to be there. And if I worry about tomorrow, then I'm anxiety. If I worry about what I should have done yesterday, I'm depressed. And then next thing you know, a person's drinking, or they're binge watching TV, or they're living addicted to sadness all the time. It's just, we have a real big job to go out and help more people. And I'm so glad for technology on more fronts than I'm against it, because of the fact that we can voice and maybe lift one more person out of that valley of despair into the willing.
Yeah, and that makes all the difference. That makes all the difference. The other thing that I wanted to bring out here too, since we were touching on the heart and brain thing, is it took me a while to learn this, but once I realized that it was true, everything shifted in my life. And that was, my heart never misleads me. My brain is really, really good at misleading me. I mean, it'll mislead me all over the place, but my heart never gets it wrong. It's always acting in my best interest. It took me a while to learn that one. Once I learned that one, my whole life got a whole lot easier, because first of all, I didn't have to figure everything out anymore. That was really great. I mean, talk about quieting the brain. That was the best quieting method I ever discovered. But even more than that, everything got peaceful. Everything got, oh, I just have to listen to the heart. I can do that. And it made all the difference.
I love that you brought that up, because one of the things I tend to do a lot over the last few years is go like this, and I put my hands right here, right? And it's like I'm telling myself, you know what, this is right. You're not right. This is right. And when you were talking about it, I was thinking about the fact that, oh, you put your hands on your heart a lot. You're trying to remind yourself, you're trying to lock in the fact that this is more of a northern, a north on a compass than this is. This fools itself. This fools itself, because again, people don't understand. The brain doesn't know the difference between a truth and a lie. It's
true.
Impossible for it to know. We program it. Society, learned behaviors, our parents, our friends, right? But this is hard to program. This is just this reacts in real time.
The only way that I've ever discovered that you can have your lie seem to come from your heart is if you're actually blocked off from your heart, and your brain is trying to pretend that it was the heart. The heart actually never lies. The heart actually never deceives. There's the country singer that sings about, the cheating heart. Hearts don't cheat. The cheating happened in the brain, and the brain said, I'm going to pretend I'm the heart today, and I'm going to go cheat, and then I'm going to blame it on the heart.
That's when we need one of those, what do they call it? We need like a huge solid gate that we can just go, sorry, brain.
Yeah, right.
Right. Look at that. What's that saying my kids used to always say? Talk to the hand, the face isn't listening. Well, we have to have something to that extent to tell our brain and our heart to, quit talking, bugger off.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is, when we finally learn which one's which and which one does what, life does get simpler. And that happiness you were talking about, boy, that happiness becomes so much easier to find, because you were giving us some great examples about how, what are you going to focus your attention on? What am I going to pay attention to? What am I going to appreciate today? Those are all wonderful things to do, but they're so much easier to do when you're heart focused. When you're brain focused, that's the hardest thing in the world to do. When your heart focused, is like, well, shoot, that's easy. I can do that.
It's so true. We just have to appreciate what we got around us and realize that we become visually deaf to everything around us, right? We become hearing deaf too. And we don't do enough to appreciate the fact And you know, I know people get irritated even on my own show when I interview people or I do solo podcasts. People reach out and say, well, I don't care what's going on in the rest of the world and blah, blah, blah. I just care about this. I said, okay, well, one of the things I work on is the fact that, oh my goodness, I have a bed to sleep in today. I woke up in this bed, and somebody out there is hiding in a little piece of a building, worried about getting bombed. Somebody's in another country that's not at war, but they have to walk miles to get water, and they're lucky if they eat once a day, right? And fine, you could be shut out to the rest of the world's trials and tribulations and strife, but I use that as a point of giving more, right? To do more, to be vocal about the fact of how well we have it, and to quit bitching and complaining about, sorry about the word, but it's a true, complaining about our lives, right? At the end of the day, we have it so good. Us three are talking on technology that I bet you 2/3 of the world doesn't have access to. We pick up our smartphone.
Life, aren't you?
Yes, we can open up a fridge. There's food in there. I have a cup of coffee here. I'm getting to talk with some wonderful people from around the world. Like how can I not appreciate that? How can I not have the warm and fuzzies right now, which I do? It makes me literally, I can feel my body heating up, warming up, because I've started to attune myself more over the last probably decade, is be a person to understand body language from others and understand my own internal body language, because now it ties back to what you were talking about, that heart. We put too much up here and not enough here. How is my body feeling when I'm talking to you guys? Am I all tensed up? Are my shoulders bunched up? How am I feeling?
Exactly.
Right? We need to get through to more people. We just do. And I hope that our conversation, I know I feel better after just conversing with you both. It's already done its job.
The ripple effect
before
happens.
It's even released.
I mean, you're right. And when we have conversations like that, that does happen. But there is also the ripple effect, because there are going to be people who listen to this or watch this, and they're going to be affected in ways we don't even see, but it's going to be there, and it's going to show up in ways we never find out about, but it happens anyway. The ripple effects go on and on. We don't give enough credit and enough attention to those ripple effects, but they're happening all the time.
And what you say influence me already today. There's things that you've said that I'm going to dwell on, because I'm a person that is inside my head when I need to be, right? And I will listen to this episode back when I'm a guest on people's show. I for sure do, because I want to be the best version of me, not to be phony, but to be unique and real and genuine to one person that might make a difference to. And sometimes it's the host, and it can be the same for me. Sometimes it doesn't matter if that guest helps anybody else. They've already helped me. They've helped me check the box of realization and intent.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. I presume because of your practice, you also enjoy carrying on these kinds of conversations with average people who just reach out to you. How does somebody reach out to you?
All the time. Just go to giveaheck.com. I've got a one-stop shop. I had the site rebuilt a couple of years ago by another good friend of mine. She's actually still to this day the #1 listened podcast that I have in 5.5 years.
Oh, fabulous.
Right? Yeah, she's a web developer, owns a company in the US. She now lives in Texas, moved from LA. But yeah, just super great people. She started her business out as a young girl as a digital nomad, working all over the planet. And I don't know, it's listened to every single week by somebody new and it was done. It was one of the first few episodes I did. So the reason I bring her up is, if you're looking for somebody, when we deal with professionals, deal with somebody that's heart-centric, that is common to you. They're the willing, you're the willing. You have a better chance of them understanding you and developing things that will attract people. So just go to giveaheck.com. It talks about my book, my podcast, my financial teaching, my coaching business, the speaking topics that I'll do for people. It's just a one-stop shop. They can find all my social media on there. They can reach out for a free, no cost video call with me, just to share, just to talk, right?
Because we live,
depending where you are. Yeah. Well, I live to help people, right? Obviously, I've got the gift for gab like you do and many other people, but
that's a podcast host. That's all that does. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say something that wasn't truthful? I'm just wondering.
if I played back the episode, I might find something. I'm not going to try, but it's probably something in there. I don't know.
I don't know. I meant the last part. I meant
The last part. No, not at all. No.
That I'm just teasing. But yes, it's been great. Thank you so much for honoring me with your guys' platform.
Well, we actually have a couple things that we do at the end. We haven't done those yet, so we have to get those done.
Let's go. I got lots of time.
Because Anne-Marie is not only a co-host, she's actually a former listener. That's how she ended up becoming a co-host.
Yeah, I caught that at the beginning. I thought, wow. You see, how many more episodes do I got to do to catch up to that and get my own Anne-Marie?
A few.
Did you have to bribe her with anything? Did you have to send her gifts?
He tricked me. I'm not going to lie. I said I'd stand in on occasions, and 5 years later, I've still been doing it every week.
Congratulations, though.
But
Good
I
for
wouldn't
you.
swap. I wouldn't swap. Like we said about the whole energy thing. I come onto some of these podcasts exhausted, and then I can't sleep by the time they finish because I'm buzzing with that energy.
So do you do like I do? Emery, I book even for my own show, or if I'm a guest, I always book an hour and a half minimum of time before, so I can read if I've had other calls with clients or whatever. I want to make sure I'm clear-headed to start a podcast, and I want to make sure that I can go over and be exhausted sitting on my couch for a little bit, because it just drains me in a good way, right? I feel openly happy, but I'm also emotionally and mentally exhausted in a good way.
I just always come with the intention to have a good time and to listen, which is what I do a lot of, and I love it. Just love it.
Well, because you're listening,
congratulations.
that's why we have this other segment at the end here, because she's been listening and she's been kind of putting all this together, and she's the one who ties it all together in a way that the listeners make sense of. So, Anne-Marie, how are you tying it together today?
Oh my gosh, I've made so many notes. I'm not sure if this is going to be a tidy tie-up, but what I will say is there have been, being in that heart center and just having that reminder from you guys, I felt quite emotional quite a few times throughout this. It's been really beautiful. And I just think it's such a worthwhile conversation. We had the conversation about having your self-worth and your self-awareness in order to help others. But I think I love the never have a bad day, because we do sometimes just focus on the negative that's happened, and the advice of looking for the silver lining, looking for the opportunities in that day, all the tools around it, like having your support network around you, taking control, eliminating situations that do not add value. There was just so much good stuff. So I just think the way to end it, which something we discussed, was be kind to yourself. Speak those kind words, take action, remember the power of your words, find the things in the day that you have appreciation for, and dismiss that distraction.
See, this is why it's so valuable to have a co-host who came from the listening audience. You see what I mean?
Well, her synopsis, her breakdown was precise and made me even feel more warm and fuzzy. It was just because it's always nice to know. I don't know if you find this as well. When I'm hosting a podcast and we're having a conversation and we go back and forth, it's nice when I hear from the listeners or they hear from me, or even the guests, the fact that they actually heard me.
Yeah.
They were actually paying attention. Wow. And it makes me feel good, right? It just does. When I get comments put on Podmatch, for an example, I was on another couple services, but I'm exclusive to Podmatch now. I find the quality of guests were just way higher. Yeah. And then Alex and his wife are just fantastic as continuing to develop the platform. But you read some of the comments that the guests leave about being on my show, or vice versa, that I leave when I'm a guest on people's show, and you read through them and you can just feel the love. You can feel the worst ones are the one, oh, great guest, great show, like whatever.
I'm looking, what went wrong that day?
But that tells me something about people's shows though, right? If they can't put in the effort to give their guest a good review, right? Or vice versa, why are you doing this? You should be doing this, like Emery said, to connect to people. To create that unity. And it's just, there's so many different things we can do to make our lives better, but we need to be present in conversation. And I will say this as the last thing, when I talk to somebody, whether it's a client, whether I'm coaching somebody or I'm on a podcast or I'm face to face, don't be afraid to even grab your phone and leave a note about something so you don't forget it, because thoughts are fleeting within our brain, right? We don't have the ability to index it. So if I'm talking to you guys and I was the host, I'd be writing little notes down like Amber, you were writing. I'd write bullet points down so that I can stay connected in the conversation and not lose my thought, because I'm going, oh my gosh, I got to remember that one thing to ask them about. And then there's 10 minutes more conversation. I'm stuck in that one thought process and I missed the great gift that they were presenting to me. So being an active listener, being a good person, it's never going to stop taking effort, but it's so worth it.
I love that. There's actually one other thing that we do that I like to do to end an episode, and I want to do that here as well, because you, like so many people who've come onto the show, you're primarily a giver. You're out there trying to give to the world quite successfully. And as you know, now that we have this technology that we didn't have 30, 40 years ago, we're able to do things where you're in Canada, I'm in the US, she's in the UK. We're having a conversation like we're in the same living room together. I mean, that was
hugs to you all.
Right.
Hugs across the pond, hugs across the border.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fabulous thing. But there's also something that goes along with it that I noticed a while ago. I noticed it a few years ago. And so I started incorporating this as a result. And that is because we're able to do this and we have people listening and watching who, half the time, like we said before, that we have that ripple effect, right? We're rippling out there and we're touching people in ways we don't necessarily know about. And I realized, you know what? We don't get a lot of credit for that. And we really should. So that's why I like to say, Dwight, on behalf of those people that you've never met and never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping through your podcast, through your appearance on other podcasts, or your book in ways that you didn't even know about. On their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you so much. And you guys as well. This is a great format. I've never been on a show where I've had somebody interview me, somebody interject once in a while, take notes and do the summary. That's a valid listener, valuable listener of yours for many years. And yeah, what a great format. I really enjoyed myself.
We enjoyed having you. So thank you so much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.